to another edition of The Sound of HR. I'm so excited to have my good friend here, Anne Davis from H2M, and she's going to tell us about an amazing conference that she just attended. And there was a number one concern for HR leaders. Why don't you tell us what you experienced and what you heard?
Absolutely. So the conference is run by an organization called the Employee Engagement Group, and they have a lot of experience in the industry my company is in, which is the engineering and architectural industry. So it's HR leaders from across the country that attend this. There was about 250 of us. I think 120 companies were represented, so that was really great. And then we get together to talk about like concerns that are really facing our industry. So I know this was what I voted for, and I was really surprised to hear that the majority of the people voted for it. And the biggest concern we're seeing right now is how do we prepare people that are in our organizations from being individual contributors to becoming those team leaders, department managers, and then further, how are they going to be prepared to lead the organization, get into those director and C-suite roles?
Absolutely, yeah. So that's probably a really cool conference to be able to, learn about those challenges and successes of people who have, gone down that road and figured it out. But H2M is a leader in mentoring and producing amazing professionals. So thank you for what you do for our young professionals.
Thank you.
Why is this transition such a big issue right now?
It's interesting. I think it's probably always a big issue, but right now, and I would say that especially the last 10 years, what I've seen everywhere, but really at my firm, is the growth that we've experienced, the opportunities that are available, and the lack of talent, right? So we are in such a tight labor market for engineering and architectural professionals. We have a great opportunity to get them out of school. There's a lot of students that are graduating, enough for us to staff at that level. But things change, people move on, they take different directions. And also based on the ebbs and flow of the economy, we may have a really strong hiring year, 1 year with grads, and then maybe, it's not as strong in a future year. And that has trickle down effects, right? Then we don't have those leaders to take on the roles when we need them. But because of the growth that we're experiencing in our industry, there's a lot of opportunity to take stretch positions. So we're taking, really promising professionals and putting them into this leadership or manager roles. And, they're great and they're doing wonderful, but it's a lot. We ask our managers to do a lot for the organization. And it's really important that they're feeling prepared and confident in what they need to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. What's at stake if organizations get this wrong?
Gosh. Yeah, I mean, it's the whole kind of livelihood of our organization. So we were talking earlier before we recorded. There is a phrase that I think most HR professionals have heard, and it's people don't leave companies, they leave their manager. And it is true because the manager is really providing the main experience for that employee of what it's like to be at the company. And I don't necessarily think it's a fair comment because the company is responsible to support those managers. So, it's really important to me and to my team that we are doing everything we can do to make sure we're developing people into great people leaders.
So for the first-time manager, what's the biggest misconception about becoming a manager for the first time? It could be extremely scary, especially, for an organization like H2M. It's a big name. It's very well known. So what's some misconceptions?
Great. There's quite a few. I guess what I'd say is some challenges, really what I'm seeing people struggle with and maybe feel like they need to know everything. They need to be perfect people managers right off the bat. And I try to assure everyone that you're not good at most things, right? You try the first time. At least I'm not. I'd like to be good at lots of things, but it takes time. And, we have to give people that space and patience and support so that they have the time to do the leading, the managing, and so forth. So that's number one. I think if we are telling our managers that, hey, we've got you. This is not something we're expecting you to do like perfectly overnight. I think that helps and it goes a long way. I think the other thing that gets really tricky is just moving from being an individual contributor to now trying to get success through other people. I think this goes across all industries, not just in our field, but you promote the people that are really good at what they do, right? So really strong engineer, really strong architect, scientist. The next step is, hey, we're going to have you manage some people. And for somebody that their success has been driven on their individual contribution, that can be really difficult. So now I'm going to be supervising somebody that is not me and operates very differently than me. And I need to learn how to work with that person. So delegating, task management, those types of things can be really difficult because I know I can do this really well. I know I can do it fast. And now I need to transition and get somebody else to do it. So it's difficult.
So viewers, you all know that I face that problem when it comes to SHRM conference. I'm really good at doing it by myself, but I really have a hard time delegating.
Yep.
So what types of support do you provide these new managers to help kind of develop those skills?
Yeah.
Because maybe I can attend some of those classes.
I would love that. So we have two, I would say, learning programs that we ask people that are going to go through this path and be a people leader to attend. And the first is a very quick, it's a one-time 90-minute new supervisor training that I put on along with one of our leaders from the technical disciplines. So that way they can see both the HR perspective as well as a practitioner. And we actually started this program by surveying all of H2M supervisors to see what are your biggest pain points. What do you wish you knew going into a supervisory role? And I use supervisor and manager interchangeably, but I know there are some differences. So I apologize if that's confusing. So of those things, there was 4 top results. And I was a little surprised, actually, but I don't know why. I shouldn't have been. Task management was one of the number ones. And for us, that's just making sure that it's kind of like project management, but at a smaller scale. So how do I make sure that I'm assigning something that is reasonable for that person to achieve, also provides them the context in which that task is a part of. So understanding the bigger picture to just that one, that task, keeping them on target, on budget, all of those things kind of wrapped into one. That was number one. Giving feedback. I think that's really uncomfortable. Sometimes in our field, it's not a field where often a lot of people that are really gregarious and, open to having those kinds of conversations go into, right? Sometimes engineers and architects are a little bit more, focused on the work. So having some framework for that group to be able to give feedback where they don't feel bad about the feedback they're giving, that they know that I'm giving feedback to this person so that that person can get better. It's not criticism or any kind of insult to the way they're performing. 1, 2, delegation. So that was, a huge one too. How do I take myself away from the work and start to delegate? And then performance management. So that overall process of, how do I make sure this person, the whole person, is feeling really good and, moving forward in their career in an effective way. So those were the top 4 things. So we built our training on those 4 things. And that's really their introduction. And that's really all it is. And I think the tricky thing about training and learning and development programs is it can't just be, this is the one time I'm going to touch you about these topics and then go on and, take it from there. So, Dan Ritchie.
Of course.
Our learning and development director is amazing. And he embodies, it's not just I'm going to develop these programs, he embodies what he teaches. And having him here at H2M in-house allows us to, have that constant narrative about what's really important in all aspects of our business, but specifically on managing people. So that's step one. And then people need to be released and go manage and enjoy and have those experiences and come talk to us when you're challenged.
Yeah.
We're here for you. That's step one. And then step two is a people manager boot camp, which is a much more extensive program that goes over several weeks. It has all aspects to it. There's a legal component. Chris Valentina from Jackson Lewis attends. So it is a really much more in-depth program where people now have had the fundamentals and now they can really, and they've had some time, right, to manage, and then they can spend the time in this training working through some of those challenges.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, letting go of doing, right? So we all have that. It's hard for us to do it, especially when, we're used to doing it alone. Why do high performers struggle so much with that shift?
I think a little bit like what I was saying before, they know their capabilities. They know how long it's going to take them. They know that they're going to perform that to the level of expectations they have for themselves. So it is really difficult, and I don't want to diminish that feeling and that concern. It is really, really hard to put something that you care about so much in the hands of somebody else.
Absolutely.
Right? But one of the things that we try to lean on and talk about is what's next for you. This is great. You've excelled in your career to this point, and is this where you want to stay? Is that it? Because if that's it, that's okay. Then you know what? Keep doing what you're doing. You're great at it. Maybe there's a different path for you that doesn't involve, managing people. But if you see more for yourself in your career and you want to continue to become a leader, an influencer in the organization, it's time for you to free up space for yourself. So you need to have that space so that you can do other things. And you're not going to have that space if you keep holding on.
Yeah. So that takes us to the next segment is, individual contributor to a manager, now to an organizational leader.
Yeah.
What separates a strong manager from someone who can actually lead at an organizational level? It's a tough one.
It is a tough one. And I have to say, I'm personally going through this shift. So it's interesting, especially from HR. We coach and we talk a lot about these topics, and sometimes we don't actually experience it ourselves. So it's easy sometimes to say.
So I'm familiar with what's going on over there. So you want to give us your personal perspective?
Absolutely. So people that are listening to this in our community will know Liz Saitta, the CHRO.
Love her.
I know. She is a legend, right?
Is.
There's no other way to describe her. There's no other HR professional I've ever met that is like Liz. And I think how incredible it is that I had that opportunity to work and grow under her leadership. But she's retiring in about 2 weeks. So,
but we're so proud of you, Anne.
Thank
we're
you,
so
thank
excited
you,
to see, where you take the organization.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
SHRM-Long Island's here for you for whatever you need.
I appreciate it. I love SHRM-Long Island. You guys are great. And I love the transition and the transformation you have made, just as an aside, over the last couple of years. It's been great to see. But so I'm, I would say I look at myself, while HR has, of course, impact across the whole organization, my primary focus has been my team, and making sure that they're supported and they can do the great work that we want our HR department to do. And that doesn't go away. But now my shift, and I think you asked, what really gets you there, I think it's really perspective. And, my perspective cannot be so much only on my team. It has to be the entire organization. And looking at things from this bird's eye view, understanding all of the aspects of our business, which again, it's still important to my role now, but now it's about how am I going to influence these much bigger strategic initiatives and plans that the organization has.
Yeah, I'm wishing you the best of
Thank
luck
you so
on
much.
that. So what's something that made you successful earlier in your career that becomes a liability later?
Ooh,
that's a good one.
This is a good one.
I think about that for myself, and it's a double-edged sword, and it's the same thing. Like, I'm super strong, like I'm a quick start. I started quick, and then it kind of sometimes falls apart because I don't want to delegate it to anybody. I want to take it on myself, and then all these things start coming, this project, that project, and then it kind of sits there. So it starts out as a strength for me because I'm a quick start. I jump on it, and then we get it going, and then it kind of flutters out sometimes. But what about for you?
I have spent a lot of my career, I would say my comfort zone, and this is kind of funny from an HR person's perspective, but my comfort zone has been behind a spreadsheet. I loved a spreadsheet, and my background, I actually went to school for engineering, not HR originally, and then I went back to school for HR. So I have this comfort in the numbers, but I need to be in the numbers. Like I can put everything together. It makes sense to me. I can produce some good results from that. And that was always something that, from Liz and I, being kind of a team for a while, that was something that was my strength and really worked nicely in our partnership. That can't be my comfort zone anymore. I have people that are a lot better at Excel than I am now, and I need to be able to let go of that and be able to see what they're producing in Excel without having to be the person inputting the information, performing the formulas, and so forth. So it's a liability because if I only can look at the data that way, then it's time wasted, and it's also not supporting the people that are really good at what they're doing. So that's been a really challenging shift I've had to make.
Yeah, it takes time. So what do you think one thing companies should be doing before someone becomes a manager?
I think that even while we've done a lot of great things at H2M, we're continuing to support this initiative. There's a lot more we can do. I think understanding the individual's career goals is really important, but when I say that, we also have to present some opportunities that might push someone outside of their comfort zone. So I think we need to understand if somebody really sees a path for themselves as leading people and supervising people, but I also think we have to give people that opportunity to step into it who might not naturally think that's where they want to be because they can still be really good at it. So I think having that flexibility and being, agile with the staff that you have, not forcing a path, but also striking that balance with pushing someone, beyond where they think they should go.
That's amazing. So in closing, if someone listening is about to become a manager, what's one thing they should stop doing? Social media?
Not podcasts. You should still watch podcasts. I think that I don't know if it's stop doing, but I would say not be afraid to do. One of the things that we really encourage all of our managers to do, and this is, maybe a cardinal rule, is communicate early and often. So stop holding your concern about a situation so long that now when you're going to address it with somebody, too much time has passed. I get sometimes you need a breather and you need to pause. You have to know your personality and understand, okay, let me just think about what just happened and how I want to approach it. But you have to, when you're leading people, you have to talk about what's going on right away, because it could be an easy miscommunication. It could be an easy time to course correct. As soon as too much time has gone by, especially if there's an expectation or a thought on the manager side that, hey, this person, they don't care about their work, or they're not performing the way I think they need to perform, and you've let too much time go, what I see is resentment starts to build up, and it's really hard to fix that. And on both sides, resentment on both sides. Right. So I would say, communicate early and often. And just to reiterate what I said in the beginning of this conversation, you're not going to always get it right. And I know that's hard, and it's people, and we want to do the right thing, and we want to communicate the best way. But I would rather see somebody communicate early instead of communicate perfectly.
Yeah, that's good advice. So is there anything else that you'd like to kind of add on to this conversation that maybe I didn't touch on?
I don't know. I think you did a great job. I love the questions.
Thank you.
I think that I just comment on comfort zone because I think that's really all part of this. My kids are pretty little still, but I went to a conference and I had to speak. It was my first speaking engagement. And I said, this is not my comfort zone because my comfort zone's behind the spreadsheet, right? And my son, who at the time was 9, he said, well, Mom, the more often you step out of your comfort zone, the bigger your comfort zone gets. And I think that's what I would say to people that are maybe considering managing people or supervising people that, it might not be your comfort zone, but it will never be your comfort zone if you don't try it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I learned that a number of years ago when I was a business director at Cutton Wealth Management under John Cutton. And he said, if you're going to be successful, you got to step out of your comfort zone. Be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes.
So it's something that I live by. And John, thank you for that bit of advice. I carry it with me near and dear. And I want to thank you for coming out and spending time with me today
Thank you so
on the
much.
Sound of HR.
It was great. I
We're
loved
so
it.
excited.
Thank
and
you.
hopefully we'll have you back on soon.
I'd love to. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.